First day of med school was the most exciting day of my life, not only because I was fulfilling my dream of doing something that could help people despite everything I'd been through on the way to get there, but because I was going to be doing it with another 100 or 200 people who had that exact same dream. And I was shocked. I mean, they actually did care. And as I got to know them over the next few months, I realized that they all had this passion, this drive to help others. At the very least, they gave a crap about other people's pain. They wanted, at some level, to make a difference. And that got me even more excited about studying. But I've noticed over the years, as I've met other med students and junior doctors, that passion, that belief, for some reason, it diminishes. I mean, it seems the further you get into med school, the less and less you care, the more detached you become, and the sadder you become too. I mean, my friends, they've lost their enthusiasm for clinics. Sometimes they say things that make me feel like they've forgotten their patients are people too. And I know many have gone into severe depression or anxiety since starting. But that sentiment, that dissatisfaction, it isn't just there in med students, it's present in the entire profession. I mean, there's this amazing book called Time to Care. I don't have it around me right now, but it highlights some staggering statistics behind this dissatisfaction. I mean, 87% of doctors have lower morale than when they started. Nearly 60% have lost their enthusiasm for medicine in the last 5 years, and 40 to 50 would go back in time and change their profession completely if they could. I mean, we're the second highest in terms of suicide rates. We're the highest in depression and alcohol abuse, despite us knowing better, despite us being able to get help for that. It seems like we hate our jobs, we hate our lives because of that too. Something's wrong. And I mean, I don't pretend to know exactly why that is for everyone. I think the sheer amount of stress that we get put under as medical students to perform, and then as doctors especially to do the same, how it all impacts our life, that makes a huge part of that dissatisfaction. But I think what gets us most is the fact that after years of being on the bottom chain of just following orders as med students and studying our heads off, when we finally get out there, we finally start treating patients, we just become another cog in this machine that keeps churning out human suffering, no matter what we do. I mean, we come into this expecting that we're going to save lives, but when or if one issue is resolved in a patient, another one comes up. I'm a perfect example of that. Half the time we can't even do much for our patients. And even if you do manage to treat one patient for one condition, another one walks through that door over and over again. When that happens for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, I could see why a lot of people are affected by it. What we do ends up seeming futile. The wins that we do get become meaningless in the big picture. And when you combine that with the whole stress and how it impacts our lives, I think that's what gets to us most. We lose the very thing that brought us into the profession, our faith in our ability to make a difference. And I know many doctors and med students feel that same way. And that when it happens, it's debilitating. But there's something I want you doctors, med students, physios, nurses, anyone at any position in the healthcare industry, there's something I want you all to know. I mean, you do have the power to make a difference. You can still change lives. I mean, it was only my doctor's words that the good news is that you have 17 and you have leukemia that got me to see that I actually had a chance, that I actually had a choice in how I viewed my disease. It was only my nurses, my social workers' friendship and support that got me, as well as my family, through the most painful, terrible times of our lives. It's well documented. The patients who feel cared for, who feel safe, they have better outcomes in disease. I mean, that power is so strong. It's what the whole placebo effect is based on. They influence treatment so much that they have to blind patients and randomize studies to get accurate results. I mean, it seems to not make sense, but it does. When we patients come to you, we're at our most vulnerable, our most painful, scary times in our lives, and it's you, your actions, your words that shape how we cope and how we handle that situation. I mean, of course you make a difference. It's not just that you should care and connect with those you're looking after. It's not just that it'll lead to better outcomes, therefore you should do it. You have to. Because chances are that either now or sometime in the future, you're going to find yourself unhappy with what you're doing. You're going to feel like what you're doing is meaningless. You're going to hate your job. But if you can be that doctor, that nurse, that friend who cares for those going through tough times, if you strive to be that person who brings light to someone's darkest day every day, instead of thinking, damn, here comes another 10-hour shift, or I don't get paid enough, or I don't get enough holidays for this shit, you're going to go into work every day thinking, whose day can I make? Whose pain can I ease? Whose life can I change? And that's huge. It's the difference between bearing what you do for half your waking hours and enjoying it. It's a difference between finding your life meaningless and meaningful. I mean, you can't afford not to do it. Now, I know what you're thinking. I just don't have the time to go that extra mile for someone, even if I could get through to them. But I mean, first of all, it doesn't even have to be an extra mile in the first place. I could tell you firsthand that the little things, being told you're sorry for the pain, but that your medications, they're on their way, that you'll be seen soon, just feeling like you're really being listened to, that your opinions really matter to a doctor, that makes the hugest difference to us. That makes a shitty day in hospital that much better, at least bearable. Even if you don't have the time to do that, even if you don't have that connection, I could tell you from personal experience, just being connected to another patient or an organization that can do that for us, that makes a whole time, makes a whole disease that much easier and better to cope with. I only saw my first patient 6 months into my treatment, just before my bone marrow transplant. And until then, I thought, yes, I'm going to get through it, but I was scared. And that patient, just seeing them, that gave me a sense of hope that I could get through all this. That there were others who'd been through what I've been through, and that I'd get through that bit at least fine. And all those things, all that requires from you is a smile, a few seconds of listening, maybe just Googling a phone number. Even if it does take that extra mile of sitting there for 10 minutes and nodding as someone pours their heart and fears out to you, of walking a patient down to their procedure on the way to somewhere else yourself, of personally writing a letter to the medical board saying why your 17-year-old patient deserves and should be allowed to sit the medical entrance exam, you should do it. Because it not only makes their lives better, it makes yours more rewarding and meaningful too. Now, I'm not saying that if you do this, you'll be fighting rainbows. It won't be shits and giggles all the time. I mean, if you see me before exams, I'm cursing myself, wondering why the hell did I even sign up for this? There will be days when you're just so tired. There will be times when everything seems wrong and unfair. There will be tasks and things you got to learn that seem meaningless. But when those days and when those things do come up, if you can remember all those times that you did make a difference, that you did help someone, instead of all those times you failed, you'll get through that. If you can remember the fact that what you're studying now, though it's boring as hell, may end up saving someone, it may end up leading you to gaining success, you'll at least go through all those things with half a smile on your face. And that can be the difference between you getting through those rough stretches or not. Now, it may seem like I've only been talking to doctors so far, but every one of you can do the exact same thing in your life, no matter what you do. I mean, if you're a teacher, and you go into work being that one teacher we all had who inspired us, who motivated us to want to learn and be the best we can be. You go into work thinking, I have the power to shape a kid, an entire generation's lives, instead of the fact that you're not paid or respected enough for what you do. If you're a public servant or call attendant and you can be that person who's bright, cheery, happy on the other line and willing to take an extra few seconds to point someone who's been calling around for an hour to the right person, you're going to enjoy the fact that you've been making someone's day that much easier, that much better, rather than looking at the clock wondering when the hell do I get out of there. If you're an engineer or architect who finds their work boring or repetitive, I mean, the work that you're doing, first of all, is making people's lives easier, but even doing it in a timely, efficient manner, that's going to make your workmates' lives easier. I mean, if you can do that, whatever profession you do, you'll make that third of your life that you spend working that much more meaningful, at least that much more bearable. You may even get commendations, recommendations, or thanks for doing that, but in the end, what matters is that you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile. And again, if you can do that, that's huge. Now, even if you feel like what you're doing is completely and utterly meaningless, that you're making no contribution to anything whatsoever, well, first of all, you can always change and use that to motivate yourself to be and do better. But if you feel that way, remember this quote that Patch Adams, the most famous clown doctor in the world, Robin Williams played him in one of his most famous films, actually. Remember what he put to us at a medical conference once. Do you stop being a doctor once you leave the hospital? Does caring, does helping others, does that have to be restricted to your profession, to how much you volunteer, or the big things you do? Because I mean, anyone, no matter what their circumstance, has the power to change someone's day, the power to put a smile on someone's face, to even change someone's life. Whether you're a filthy rich, decadent investment banker making the rich richer, or a student like me struggling to make rent every other week, your being here can make a huge difference. I mean, it costs literally 5 cents to make and send a packet of salt and water that can rehydrate someone going through diarrhea. And diarrhea, it still kills 700,000 children every year. I could do a whole other talk on just giving and saving lives and how you can do that easily, effectively, without even loss on your part. I will probably later. But I mean, it doesn't even take money to help others. Just asking someone who's been through a rough patch if they're okay, just sharing a joke with the neighbor's kid whose parents have been fighting, just helping your neighbors take in the groceries one day. It's those little gestures, those acts of kindness, they can make a huge difference. There are stories of people on the verge of committing suicide who decided not to. Why? Because a stranger smiled at them. I mean, I know when I was on the edge once, just something small like that kept me from doing it too. And if you can be that person who just smiles, jokes around, and cheers up other people's lives around them, you'll make other people's days and lives brighter. But most importantly, you'll also make yours funner too. Now, I mean, I can still remember this one night. I was making a late night groceries run, and as I got to the checkout, this little old lady, she was bagging away, but unlike usual, she wasn't chirping away. She was frowning. She was grumbly. She wasn't saying the usual hi, how are you? And it was clear she was like completely over the day. She was having a horrible day at work. So when it was my turn to check out, I pulled out this flowery, fluffy lettuce in my trolley and I said, "Hey, this is for you, darling." And for a second she didn't respond, but then the best thing happened. She broke out into this huge smile. She pointed at me and said, "That just made my night." But you know what? Her smile, that made mine. So guys, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, an engineer, a laborer. You have to be that person who cares and wants to make people's lives better. Because I mean, if you take a step back and think about it, that feeling of putting a smile on someone's face, unlike money, unlike power, fame, women, that can never be taken away from you. The knowledge that you're making a difference to people's lives, that will never seem hollow or meaningless in the long run. And it's not just that you should do it, you have to, because it's not only making their lives better, it's making yours better too.
So go out there and do it.